Good morning to everybody. How you doing? Hope all's well. Keep up the beautiful work. May Am Yisrael see only beautiful things. Be'ezrat Hashem. May we see those who do all what they do to us. May we see the revenge that Hashem will take on them. El Nikamot Hashem, El Nikamot Hofia, Be'ezrat Hashem Itbarach. And He will also fulfill with us the pasuk, Samachenu Kemot Yinitanu. Make us happy in contrast to the suffering. Be'ezrat Hashem, it's gonna happen. We just want it to happen a lot sooner than later. Be'ezrat Hashem. Parashat Mishpatim. Judgments. First of all, boy, are they getting judgments. Be'ezrat Hashem. Second, the Torah is coming to give us a whole list of mitzvot in this week's parasha. Do you know how many mitzvot are in the parasha? 53 mitzvot, which is Nun Gimal, Nisim Gidolim, Nisim Giluyim. We hope Hashem will show us miracles, Be'ezrat Hashem. Ve'ele HaMishpatim. Whenever there's a Vav in front of the word that the parasha begins with, we ask the famous question, why? If your Mora or your teacher or whoever it was, even if we were absent that day and many days from school, we all know that the teachers taught us no putting an and in the beginning of a book report, in the beginning of a sentence, in the beginning of a paragraph. But yet we have a parasha with a vav in front of it, which means and, ve'ele hamishpatim, and these are the judgments, the laws. What's with the vav? What is it coming to attach from the previous parasha that it seems like there's a connection? And the answer is there is a connection. The last mitzvah of Parashat Yitro, which was last week's parasha, is that you're not allowed to build steps to go up to the Mizbeach. The Kohen, the Kohanim, the Kohen Gadol, and the other Kohanim, they wear robes. If they walk upstairs, it's possible that it wouldn't be so modest and siniyut like it should be. And therefore, the Torah tells us, build a ramp to the Mizbeach. This way they walk toe to heel, instead of taking big leaps to go up to the Mizbeach. So it's a mitzvah in last week's parasha. It's at the end of the parasha, and that's the connection between last week's parasha and Mishpatim. But how does it connect? What's the connection? That the Torah is giving us the letter Vav to tell us there's a connection. And the answer is the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us, Hevu Mitunim Badin. What does that mean? That means that when it starts off in our parasha, ve'ele hamishpatim, these are the judgments. These are what the shofet, someone who judges, has to do and take care of, etc. What's the connection to stairs? The answer is no walking upstairs to judge people. You have to go up a ramp, which is slowly but surely to go judge. You can't hastily make judgment, no matter what kind of judgment it is, because if we do things quickly and we judge, a judgment is a very serious item. So number one, we cannot be in a rush to go judge. It's talking about the judges that are in the Beit Din, in the Jewish courts. However, it's also talking about us when it comes to judging people in our mind. Hamavadia elaborates on the subject in Pirkei Avot because it's the first Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Da'anshe Knesset HaGedolah teach us three important life items that we should keep in our mind all the time. And one of those items is Hevu Metunim Badin. So as mentioned, it's referring to the rabbis and people who are arbitrators and anyone who is a judge, either momentarily or a real full time judge. Now, when it comes to being a rabbi that's a judge or a regular judge, you have to be very smart. You can't just decide from your own mind, you know what, I want this to be the situation. You have to bring proof. Hamosi mehavero alav haraya. If you want to take money out of one guy's pocket and put it in the others, you need valid proof. So the rabbis cannot be judging swiftly, because how are they going to just say a judgment? They have to bring a proof. And that's why it says, Hevu mitunim badin. Hamadia brings a number of stories, but a quick story is with Rabbi Yeheskel Landau, the Noda Yehuda. The Noda Yehuda was a judge, was a chacham, and of course he wrote many sefarim, and Hamadia quotes his sefarim all the time. May his zechut be a merit for all of us. The Noda Yehuda was one time in his office, and a whole story unfolded in front of him. What was it? There was a fellow who walked around with a gold coin in his pocket all the time. For emergency, who knows what's going to happen? Maybe you need an emergency pastrami sandwich from Shmulka Bernstein's. Whatever the emergency might be, the fellow had a gold coin in his pocket, and he would always leave it in there. Is that the smartest thing to do? Ask your local rabbi. But for now, he kept touching his pocket to see if the money's there, if the gold coin is there throughout the day. Sometimes when the kids get annoyed, Mom, leave me alone. You keep calling, you keep this. I asked them, if you had a stack of hundreds in your pocket, would you keep checking to see if it's there? Obviously, because it's important. Well, you guys are more important as well. Well, it depends how big the stack of cash is. Just kidding. And that's what we tell the children. So he kept touching his pocket, seeing if the thing is there. And then one day he gets off a train, and when he starts walking on the sidewalk, kissing from the train, he touches his pocket and he sees that the gold coin is gone. He turns around, looks around, sees, and he sees it on the floor. He goes running, but someone was closer to the coin. And Mr. Haramiye, he took the coin and he picked it up and put it in his pocket. The guy who really owns the coin starts crying, starts telling the guy, it's my coin. He said, it's your coin. That coin was in my pocket for months. I just dropped it now for a second. So good luck to you, Baba. Have a nice day. And the guy crying, the guy whose coin it really is, he says, let's go to Beit Din, let's go to the rabbi. And the fellow says, Yalla, yeah, I have nothing to hide. I'll go. He knew the halacha that hamotzi mehavero alav haraya. If the rabbi wants to get the money out of my pocket, he has to bring a good proof. So the guy decides to go to Beit Din. He's walking cool, calm, and collected. He knows he's going to keep that gold coin. They go to the Bihaskel Landau, the Noda Yehuda, and the Noda Yehuda sees in 1 second who's the harami and who is the real guy. However, like we said, if he can't prove it, then he can't just say, I believe you're the liar and he's saying the truth. So what does the rabbi do? This is where real chokhmah comes into play. The rabbi tells the guy, do you trust me with the coin? He says, Rabbi, of course, I trust you with anything. Thank you. He gives him the coin. And the rabbi asked Mr. Harami to wait outside, and he says, I'll call you in and ask you questions and well, after I send him out. But I'm going to ask him questions first. He says, no problem. The wise guy leaves. The rabbi knew 100% that he's listening to the door. Heck, like when we were kids, we put a glass on the door to listen. I don't know if the glass really worked, but rabbi knew 100%. And he's talking a drop louder, and he tells the guy, you want to tell me this is really your gold coin? He says, Rabbi Sahih, it's really my coin. He says, the one with a hole in it right on top of the date is your coin? He says, Rabbi, it's my coin. Please believe me. He said, okay, I'm going to ask you to step outside and tell the fellow to come in. Great. The fellow leaves. The harami comes in, and the rabbi says, You say it's yours, yes, 100% mine. He says, and it was in your pocket for months, 100%. He says, nice. I just have a question for you. Is there maybe something on the coin that's a siman? BTW, simanim don't help on money, on currency, because it goes from hand to hand. You could even write your name on $100 bill, and halachically it's not yours because money goes around. Zuzim, that's why they're called Zuzim. It goes from here to there to there to there. And that's why there are people out there that are always purelling when they touch money. How you doing? Anyway, long story short, the rabbi tells him to try to identify something on the coin. And he says, Rabbi, that coin was in my pocket, and that's why I know that on top of the date there is a hole, and that's a proof that the coin is mine. Rabbi said, wow, are you 100% sure? And he said, Rabbi, not 100%, a gazillion percent. And he said, be genuine. Well, I have news for you, Baba. This coin is not yours because there ain't no hole on top of the date. And his face turned red and white. And the rabbi said, you were listening to the door. It's not yours. Please admit. And he admitted. And the rabbi, as the kids in school say today, roasted this guy. And the original owner got it back. So that's Hevu Mitunim. Badin, the Chacham, has to use a nice tactic, finagle the bagel, how to get the guy who to give the real info. One more story. How can we not mention a story with Rabino Grande as well? I don't know if I mentioned this recently, but yalla, worthwhile of repeating. There was a woman when Hamavadia was chief rabbi in Eretz Yisrael. God should watch our people, our land, our whole nation, wherever they might be. And the woman found a fellow to marry, beautiful, but he was a Kohen, also beautiful, or maybe beautiful, because rumor has it that she was married in Morocco, and she got DV'd. And we know a Kohen is not allowed to marry someone who is DV'd, who is divorced. So no rabbi wanted to marry her off because of the rumors. She claimed the rumors were false. So she didn't know what to do. She decided she's going to go to Rabino Grande, Chacham Ovadia. She gets to Hamavadia and she starts crying. Rabbi, people are making up stories. They say I was engaged, I was married in Morocco, but it's not true. I want to marry this Kohen. And Hamavadia says, in 1 second, I will marry you off if you want. Ahlan wa sahlan, no problem. And she says, for real? He says, 100%. Come to my office tomorrow. We'll fill out all the paperwork, and Bezrat Hashem, I will marry you off. She was the happiest lady in the dunya. And the next day she comes, and now that the rabbi said he's marrying her off, her guard came down. And now the rabbi knows she's susceptible to spilling the beans. Havadia starts asking questions randomly, writing them down as if, what's your last name? What's it is? What's it that? And your mother's maiden name. And while he's asking all the questions, he threw in, and what was your first husband's last name? And she said, a name. And she said, Uli. And the rabbi looked at her, and she had to admit, and he taught her, and he reprimanded her. You can't sketch the system. And from that day, she realized how Chacham, the Chacham really was. So that's one concept of Mitunim Badin. But there's another concept of Mitunim Badin, and that is how careful we have to be to judge people. Far away in Never Never Land, you have people loving the gossip and loving the judging, and people judge, and there's a rule, a deep concept that we all have to know to tell the people in Never Never Land that if someone sees a fault in another person, he can only see that fault because he himself has the fault. If he didn't, he or she did not have the fault, then they would not be able to see the fault in another person. If someone sees a Jew driving, unfortunately, on Shabbat on purpose, and we see it. It's BTW Kabbalistically, right? We try to bring them back, of course, but Kabbalistically, you're not supposed to look at their face because it brings off a bad negative aura that can have an effect on us. But if you're walking in the street, don't close your eyes and say, maybe there's a car coming. I don't want to look. You also have to use common sense as well. But long story short, we know that if someone saw someone being Mahalel Shabbat, that means they themselves somehow, some way, obviously they're not driving on Shabbat, but there is something on Shabbat that they themselves have to fix. And because they saw it, that means they have it inside of them. So, number one, people out there love to judge. And we know if someone does judge, we could use the same saying the other way around that we said. Hamotzi mehavero alav haraya. On him, he also has that item. And we learn from the connection between walking upstairs to go ahead and judge, we don't jump to conclusions. And a quick story on the subject, if I may. Also, there was a rabbi on an airplane. Not that we know anyone that's anti rabbis, of course. Baruch Hashem, we know everyone that loves everybody. But there are people far away, even further than Never Neverland, that might have being irritable against this one and that one, and rabbis as well. Some people wake up in the mirror and they start yelling at themselves. That's how miserable they are in life. We have to pray for them that Bezrat Hashem, they'll calm down in life. Short story long, on an airplane, there's a fellow who's from the anti-rabbi club, and he sees a rabbi on the plane, and he starts watching to find something, and the rabbi, all of a sudden, the dinner from the El Al plane comes, and he sees the rabbis eating, and he could swear that the rabbi didn't make a beracha. I didn't even see his lips move, but he wasn't 100%. So now he's on 1,000,000% Mossad style, analyzing this guy from head to toe. And he's noticing the rabbi didn't make a beracha. The rabbi ate bread without washing. The rabbi this, the rabbi that. And then there's a minyan for praying, and the rabbi didn't get up to pray. So some people say, okay, no praying with a minyan on the plane. Some people say yes, some people say no. But the rabbi didn't pray at all. Then when it's time for talit and tefillin, the rabbi didn't put it on. This guy, his blood is boiling, Shema Yisrael, like molten lava. He wants to go wild. He says, you know what? I am going to follow this rabbi into the airport and see who comes to greet the great chief rabbi with all the paparazzi. I'm going to tell them who the rabbi really is, because he watched and he didn't see any mitzvah, anything good. It was like a regular guy who didn't know anything. That's what the rabbi looked like. And they go to get the luggage after the plane lands, and he's ready to go out of that exit where you go green, red, etc. He's following the rabbi. He's ready to explode in front of all the paparazzi, and then he sees people crying, greeting the rabbi with ripped shirts, and the rabbi puts down his carry-on and he rips his own shirt. The rabbi was Shema Yisrael, what we call an onen. We should never ever know. But if someone has somebody that passed away, better than, we should all live and be well. And the burial didn't happen yet. The person who's in the family, anyone who's from the mourners, they're not allowed to do mitzvot. They're not allowed to eat berachot, make berachot. They're not allowed to pray. They're not allowed to put on tefillin, believe it or not. So the fellow, he was saying that the rabbi he was accusing, he jumped to conclusions, and look what ended up happening. He realized Hazit, the rabbi, was an onen, and he realized all this time he was too swift to go judging this rabbi, and look how wrong he was. So we don't judge, and that's what the Vav in the letter Ve'ele in the beginning of the parasha comes to teach us. Right after it says that, what's the first mitzvah that's mentioned in this week's parasha? After we got the Torah, after we got the Ten Commandments, what would you think is the most important mitzvah that Hashem could tell us? Hashem will tell us tefillah, learning Torah, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, being nice to someone, etc. Hashem gives us a mitzvah in the beginning of the parasha that might seem a little random, God forbid, but it does seem a little random. What is it? It's talking about an Eved Ivri that Hashem tells us to teach, to treat the Jewish slave properly and give him respect, etc. That is an important mitzvah, but why is that the first mitzvah? And the answer is it has to do with what we spoke about before as well. You can never know what someone's going through unless you put yourself in their shoes. We were slaves in Mitzrayim. While we still have it in us to realize that we were slaves in Mitzrayim, comes along Hashem to teach us to hit the iron while it's hot. Yes, you have to treat the slave properly, and you know what it means to be a slave. And that's why you have people sometimes, you see somebody, let's say, peddling something, trying to sell something, and everyone gives $1 or two. They don't buy the guy's goods. But all of a sudden, you have someone, he'll come and he'll buy a bunch of goods from the guy, even though he doesn't need it. And I asked him, what are you doing? And he said that he remembers when he had to peddle and he knows the feeling and he doesn't want the guy to go through what he went through. And therefore, that's why sometimes Hashem tests us and he puts us in situations and we can't understand it. But sometimes he wants us to help other people with even more inspiration and more energy and more fervor. And that's why certain things happen. As we know, Parashat Lech Lecha, we mentioned Hashem tells Abraham, go, leave your house, go travel, be someone who doesn't have a house to settle in. Just go traveling. And Abraham is the greatest Hachnasat Orchim person in the world. He brings in guests. He gave them everything. And now Hashem is telling him, you gotta be the guest. That's not so fair. It might seem like that, but there's a whole long story. We'll save it for another time. But Hashem does it this way. You'll give more energy and do more things for Hachnasat Orchim because now you know yourself what it feels like. And that's why Hashem commanded us to take care of the Eved Evri right after we came out of Mitzrayim, like we said, to hit the iron while it is hot. How does the system of Eved Evri work? If a person, God forbid, steals and he can't pay it back, the Torah says he has to be sold to someone as a slave. What's that all about? And the answer is, does the prison system really work? I'm sure it works something. However, a lot of the haramiyah that go in, they learn new tricks. And when they come out, they're worse than when they went in, Shema Yisrael. So it's not really the greatest system. Someone who steals, someone who does something wrong, obviously had a wrong upbringing. And the atmosphere where they grew up, it wasn't the greatest, obviously. So the rabbis take him, they don't just sell him heke like a piece of meat. They look for a family, a good family, where the husband and wife live at peace, where the children respect. And when the father says no Uber Eats, it's no. And then he says, don't buy the Mad Happy sweatshirt, buy the $29.99 sweatshirt. Yalla, they listen. And the rabbis look if there is a house like that. Anyway, Baruch Hashem, we all have peace in our homes, and we should always have peace in all our homes. But the rabbis look for a home, put the person in there, and then the person realizes what life is all about. And it's like reassembling the fellow from new, and therefore he's not going to steal anymore. And especially if he gets all the respect in a home that that they give him respect, it's going to make him want to change even more. There was a security guard in school. God bless him, a friend of ours, Hasideo Mot Haolam. He was in Rikers Island for 25 years. Do you know what that is? And the theme song in his life is Welcome to the Jungle. Literally, imagine the fighting and the disrespect and the horror and the atrocities. Shema Israel. He came after he retired to be the security guard in school, and he couldn't believe it. Little, pure, beautiful children telling him good morning every morning. And it ended up changing his entire inside and his mind and his outlook on life. He told me if he would have went straight home instead of coming to work in school, who knows what would have happened. But Hashem took him to a school where they all respect. And he told me it changed him. It turned him from being a monster, which he had to be. The guy was a beast. He told me he used to do 400 push-ups a day. Imagine. And the guy was like 60 something. How you doing? 400 push-ups. I don't know what he needed a bulletproof vest for. A chest like that, with all those push-ups, a bullet is bouncing off. But anyway, he told me, Rabbi, God gave me a gift that he brought me to a school, and it changed my whole attitude in life. And he ended up becoming one of the community favorites because of this change, this game changer that he had. So that's why Hashem says what to do with the Eved Ivri in that story. There's a lot more to talk about in the parasha. We'll give you, Bezat Hashem, one more discussion, and that is, it says in the Torah, Makeh avi ve'imo mot yumat. In the parasha, God forbid a million times, if someone hits his father or his mother, they must be killed. Imagine how much he has a whole teshuvah. If the father's a doctor, could he do surgery? Could he give his father insulin shots that might make him bleed? And at the end of the day, if that's the only way it should be done, then it can be done. But the Torah says it's a death sentence if someone hits their mother or their father, Shema Israel. And then it says something that it seems to go off a little tangent. It says, V'gonev ish umcharo. If someone kidnaps a person, how you doing? Hamas, get ready, Bezrat Hashem. You are going to have your day. And the Torah says, Mot yumat, they must die. Now, the Torah goes back to talking about the parents. Kalel aviv imo mot yumat. If someone curses their father or their mother, they get the death sentence. So we understand each one of these mitzvot. But why did the Torah talk about parents, go to kidnapping, and then also go back to talking about respecting parents? And our rabbis tell us, because sometimes parents in Never Never Land kidnap their children. They force them to do certain things. Now, of course, a parent does have to teach a child, and a parent does tell the child, you have to be home by 3 a.m., not a minute later. Of course, parents have to do. But far away, there are parents that stifle, cult style. They'll make their children do certain things. And sometimes it's the parent's fault that it ends up being kalel avi ve'imo mot yumat. Of course, we do everything with our rabbis, with the Torah, and our community. But just in case you do meet someone from Never Never Land and you see them smothering their child literally, obviously that's not something that should be done. We have to do things with chokhmah as well, Be'ezrat Hashem. Like we said, there's a lot to talk about, but time does not allow us to finish. You'll go to your local class in the synagogue, Be'ezrat Hashem. Here the rabbis give the Divrei Torah, the women go, the men go, the children go. Mashallah, Hashem is looking down. He's smiling at our people. And inshallah, he will just say, you know what? Hegia Azman. Mashiach will come and we'll all be in Yerushalayim Hamnuyah. Keep up the excellent work. Have the best day and Shabbat Shalom. Take care. Bye.